Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Carter and Daphne are busted by Hope, and Finn confronts Poppy with the truth. According to Tuesday, February 4th spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, John Finnegan confronted Poppy Nozawa with the truth, and Carter Walton and Daphne Rose were busted in a close moment. Denial over Luna Nozawa's paternity revelation caused Finn to run another DNA test in his office, which yielded the same result. Finn made the decision to call Poppy after he was certain that Luna was, in fact, his daughter. Poppy acknowledged that Luna was gone when Lee Finnegan questioned why she wanted to meet with her at Il Giardino. Lee offered to question the prison officials more, but Poppy declined after explaining that they would simply inform her that Luna was still detained. Lee continued to express regret for the past, but Poppy appeared remorseful when Finn called and asked her to attend another urgent meeting. Poppy emphasized in Finn's office how important it was that he put all of his questions to rest. But since he was, in fact, Luna's father, Finn produced the paternity test findings and confronted Poppy about her deception. Luna indulged in her squishy lifestyle at the Spencer estate, eating chocolates and lounging on the sofa in fluffy slippers. Luna didn't think that Tom Starr was her biological father until she came upon an old photograph of him in a book. Zend Forrester Dominguez broke up a heated argument between Steffi Forrester and Hope Logan in the Forrester Creations design office. Before Hope took off, there was some discussion regarding Zend's importance at Forrester. Although he wished he had more information, Zend reassured Steffi that he believed in her plan to regain control of the business. Though she stated that Hope and Carter wouldn't smell it coming until it was too late, Steffi didn't provide Zend with any significant updates regarding Tuesday's B&B episode. Since Daphne wasn't the kind of lady who needed an explanation, she declined to tell Carter why she had arrived at Forrester Creations' door. Carter sniffed one side of her neck, then the other, as Daphne changed direction and forced him to pick between the two scents she was delivering. Carter leaned in close, as if he was drunk on Daphne again. Hope wondered what was happening when she walked in and noticed the comfortable moment. With trepidation, Carter withdrew and clarified that he was attempting to select the launch's fragrances. According to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful, Carter won't raise too many red flags for the time being, but will give you additional predictions about any jealousy that might eventually surface for Hope. Zend and Daphne connect after Hope is displaced from the seduction trail. According to Wednesday, February 5th spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope Logan will be removed off the seduction trail prior to Zend Forrester Dominguez and Daphne Rose meeting at work. First off, it appears like Carter Walton's answer will satisfy Hope. Hope noticed that Carter and Daphne were too near, but Carter said that he was attempting to decide which of the fragrances she was wearing would be best for the impending launch. Hope might find that sufficient, especially because she is aware of Daphne's propensity to flaunt her perfumes in a personal way. According to B&B previews, Hope won't have the mental space to consider Daphne a threat at this time, because her worries about Steffi Forrester's corporate return will continue to take precedence. In the meantime, on Wednesday's episode, Zend will meet Daphne at work and get to know her. Although Zend is unaware of all the specifics of Steffi's scheme, he might surmise that Daphne plays a significant role in it. Naturally, it would be intriguing if Daphne and Zend became attracted to one another. On Steffi's orders, Daphne is attempting to woo Carter, but is it possible that she could develop a genuine interest in Zend on a more intimate level? John Finnegan will not allow Poppy Nozawa to continue to bury her head in the sand at the hospital. Finn has now informed Poppy that he is, in fact, Luna Nozawa's father after presenting the paternity test findings. Poppy will not be pleased that Finn has pursued his investigation this far, but she will believe that it is more crucial than ever that he keep his lips quiet. Poppy will ask Finn not to blow things out of proportion by informing anyone, especially Luna or Lee Finnegan, even though he now has evidence that Luna is his daughter. Poppy might pressure Finn to keep this surprise from Steffi Forrester as well and simply leave the past drama behind him. A part of Finn will be terrified that these Luna paternity updates would ruin his marriage, but another part of him will question how he can remain silent about such a thing. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Poppy and Finn will soon engage in another furious argument. We'll give you our guesses on what will happen to them both next. When Zend and Daphne meet, their priorities are skewed. Here is the recap for Wednesday, February 5, 2025's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful. Fans can anticipate Zend Forrester Dominguez seeing Daphne Rose in tomorrow's show. In the meantime, Hope Logan's misgivings about Steffi Forrester Finnegan become paramount. Let's discuss what will happen in the upcoming episode of the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. The triumph of Steffi Forrester Finnegan. According to Wednesday, February 5 BNB spoilers, Steffi is certain that her plan is succeeding admirably. Daphne hadn't been able to hook Carter in when she previously gave Steffi an update. Since then, though, Daphne has taken some risky actions with Carter. BNB spoilers, priorities of Hope Logan. Daphne was making sexy moves on Carter as Hope was concentrating on Steffi. Carter appears to be helpless against Daphne, as Steffi had foreseen. Hope worries too much about Steffi's true motivation for going back to Forrester Creations, while Daphne is stomping all over Carter. Hope might even think that Steffi is trying to sabotage Daphne's scent agreement with Forrester Creations. Hope may therefore be reluctant to confront Daphne after busting Carter. The meeting of Zend Forrester Dominguez. Zend will meet Daphne, according to Wednesday, February 5 spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Daphne will now interact with numerous folks at Forrester Creations. So why were the spoilers about Zend and Daphne's meeting? There is a chance that Zend and Daphne are romantically involved. It is hinted that Daphne spends time getting to know the designer rather than merely meeting Zend. Therefore, it's either a romantic relationship or perhaps Daphne will tell Zend about the scheme. Wednesday, February 5, 2025, spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Fans will witness Hope's response to discovering Daphne with Carter in tomorrow's episode. They were far too near for comfort, even though they weren't kissing. Carter didn't even notice Hope opening the door since he was so engrossed in Daphne's scents. Hope might keep quiet to avoid upsetting anyone, even though it was obvious what was happening. Hope won't want to jeopardize her future because she thinks the agreement with Daphne will propel Forrester Creations to new heights. An update on Penelope Poppy Nozawa's response to John Finn Finnegan's paternity test should also be included. Poppy's problems became much more complicated when Luna Nozawa went away from prison. Carter is exactly where Daphne Rose wants him to be. According to spoilers for Tuesday, February 4, 2025's episode of The Bold and the Beautiful, Daphne intends for Carter to fulfill Steffi's wishes. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Daphne Rose supports Broke Logan. Daphne Rose is moving quickly to fulfill her goal, to destroy Hope Logan's heart and woo Carter Walton. Carter is by himself in Eric Forrester's office, and Daphne investigates every possibility. As Steffi Forrester Finnegan had suspected, she can see that Carter is an easy target. After all, Carter is a man who is prone to falling for women. He suddenly fell in love with Hope. He hardly knew either Zoe Buckingham or her sister Paris Buckingham, whom he almost married. Before anyone could blink, he fell in love with Quinn Fuller Forrester, so naturally, he is ready for Daphne. But is there any chance that Carter's affection for Hope is genuine and that he can withstand Daphne's strangely powerful charms? Is there more going on than meets the eye if he does betray Hope? Does the nose actually know? BNB spoilers. Everyone at Forrester seems to enter a trance whenever Daphne is even present in the premises. As everyone appears to be enthralled by this amazing scent, strange music starts to play in the background. Daphne couldn't be that skillful, can she? Maybe Daphne's scent has a mystical quality that makes people behave strangely. It would undoubtedly explain Steffi's strong sense of control over everything. Is Steffi's secret weapon a perfume with superpowers? Is Steffi aware that she's playing with fire as well? The last time she meddled in Hope's romantic life, things did not work out well for her. What gives her hope that this year's interference will proceed more smoothly? But perhaps this is what Hope needs. This might be the ideal moment to permanently bring Thomas and Douglas Forrester back to upend Hope's life and lives at Forrester Creations if she believes Carter has betrayed her. Luna remains a monster. Naturally, we are referring to Luna because, despite her best efforts to persuade Bill Spencer that she has changed, it seems as though she is still the monster that everyone knows she is. The issue is that Bill seems to genuinely believe her. Luna expressed her gratitude to Bill during the most recent episode of The Bold and the Beautiful for rescuing her from jail and house arrest, saying that she was really afraid for her safety while incarcerated. As if that weren't enough, she even reflected on her terrible actions during the event, found it hard to believe she had done what she had, and vowed never to go back. That is, if everyone believes her, isn't it? It's quite obvious that Luna is also rewriting her own narrative. Fans of BNB, of course, had a lot to say about the issue. Some even said, "She's going to do something crazy," in their comments. I already sense it. Since Luna isn't finished yet, Steffi Forrester had better guard her back. After all, she is the granddaughter of Sheila Carter. Bill Spencer is either the smartest guy on the show or the dumbest, another critic commented. Why does he hang around with Luna so much? He shouldn't have this kind of faith in her. She will ultimately force him over a balcony. Being a man of integrity, someone who followed his heart but never allowed himself to be used, was something Carter Walton had always taken pride in. After being burned by Quinn, Zoe, and Paris in the past, he vowed never to fall into the same trap again. However, things were different this time. He hadn't even anticipated it this time. The devoted, trusting confidant Carter Walton had just been portrayed. It had all seemed so easy, so natural, at first. With her self-assurance, sensuality, and impossible intrigue, Daphne had swept into his life like a tornado. He felt like he was more than just the good guy who always came in last, because of the way she made him feel. It wasn't about broken promises or failed engagements with her. It was about connection, about desire, about something unadulterated and genuine. That's what he had thought, anyway. But in hindsight, he ought to have been more aware. Beneath her charming looks and lingering touches, the indications had been there. She had been too anxious to be close to him at Forrester Creations, too intrigued by his job, and too fast to jump into irrelevant conversations. She had portrayed herself as the ideal partner and lover while weaving a web that he was unaware he was entangled in. Reality didn't start to set in until Ridge yanked him away. Ridge had stated in a worried tone, "Carter, you have to wake up. Daphne is not who you believe her to be." Incredulous that he could be so blind, Carter had initially sneered. Then, however, everything began to come together. Daphne's sudden interest in business matters is the subject of office whispers. She had lied about a late-night meeting being about business, but it was really about something else. The saddest part is that she had never truly cared about him, instead, she had only ever been interested in what he could do for her. The hardest thing had been facing her. His voice taut with betrayal, he had said, "Tell me the truth, Daphne. Was this all true? Or did you use me as a stepping stone?" For a little minute, she had paused, and that pause had given him all the information he required. She had said, "Carter, it's not that simple," in a suave but unconvincing voice. "Although I really care about you, I also had to take care of myself. Don't you understand that?" Carter, however, didn't get it. Trust wasn't meant to be abused, and love wasn't meant to be a game. After lowering his defenses for her and falling for the delusion she had painstakingly created, he was now left to pick up the pieces of yet another betrayal. Carter's jaw tightened as he let out a quick exhale as Daphne left. Once more, he had been played. He wasn't going to accept it, though, this time. He had learned his lesson, and whomever attempted to use him the next time would realize what a huge mistake that had been. Finn's heart was beating so loudly he could hear it in his ears as he gazed at the DNA test results in his trembling palms. What he had yearned for and feared was verified by the words on the page, 99.9% match for John Finn Finnegan. His daughter was named Luna. He was overcome with a tidal surge of emotions that made it difficult for him to think clearly after the realization. Inside of him, feelings of relief, rage, incredulity, and even joy fought for control. He had been misled by Poppy. She had concealed this from him for years, allowing him to live in ignorance while he unwittingly had a daughter growing up around him. He had previously spent time with Luna, and he had never once recognized her as his biological daughter. Instead, he had regarded her as a bright, talented young woman with kindness in her eyes. And now? He could never see it again. Now, every moment, her facial expressions, her body language, the strangely familiar things she said, repeated in his mind with fresh significance. He had her. He tightened his hold on the paper and looked up at Poppy, who was standing in front of him, wringing her hands tensely, regret on her face. "Why?" he spoke in a raspy, treacherous voice. "Poppy, why did you hide this from me?" Poppy swallowed forcefully, tears in her eyes. She said, "I was trying to protect her." "And you?" "From what?" Finn's voice raised, exploding with frustration. "From being aware that I have a daughter? From existing in her life? That was not your place to decide for me." With her arms folded and her lips squeezed together, Steffi stood quietly in the corner. Even though this fact had caught her off guard, Finn could sense that something more was hiding beneath her calm appearance. The paternity surprise wasn't the only thing that hurt her, there was more to it. Additionally, Hope Logan was observing it as well. For weeks now, Hope had been watching Steffi, feeling that something wasn't quite right. Steffi had been particularly tense, too possessive of her relationship with Finn, and quick to cut off conversations. And now that Finn's paternity had been established, Hope couldn't get rid of the suspicion that Steffi had been aware of something the entire time. Steffi was feisty, cunning, and most importantly, determined to keep control of her life. She would have done everything in her ability to stifle any idea that Luna was Finn's daughter prior to the results of the DNA test. Hope had witnessed Steffi go to tremendous measures in the past to protect her family and what she considered to be hers. What more was Steffi concealing if she was aware of this and had remained silent? Hope examined her intently, her thoughts racing. Suddenly, every interaction between Finn and Luna acquired a new significance. Steffi's attempt to restrict Finn's interactions with Luna and her subtle discouragement of their relationship would have been explained if she had suspected the truth. Now everything was beginning to make sense. However, it was still unclear how much Steffi knew and how far she would go to prevent her marriage from collapsing. Meanwhile, Finn continued to struggle with the severity of the situation. With his head reeling from everything he had just discovered, he turned his back on Poppy and ran a hand through his hair. A daughter. His daughter was born. And Steffi. Now, his voice was gentler but still tinged with hurt as he turned to face his wife. "Were you aware?" In pursuit of honesty, he looked into her eyes. "Did you know anything?" Steffi paused, only a moment. However, Finn managed to catch it. Hope did the same. Steffi began to say, when Finn interrupted. With little tolerance, he warned, "Steffi." Her flawless poise started to crumble as she let out a sharp exhale. She cautiously acknowledged, "I didn't know for sure," picking her words carefully, as though they were stepping stones across hazardous seas. "But I had a suspicion." Finn's throat tightened with breath. "You had a suspicion, but you kept it from me?" "Finn, I was attempting to keep our family safe," with a hint of desperation, Steffi's voice soared. "I had no idea what that would imply for our marriage or for us." "For you." Hope's fears were validated, and she watched the interaction with wide eyes. Something Steffi had been concealing. And what more could she have done if she had been prepared to keep Finn in the dark about this? Finn stepped back and shook his head. "So, in order to keep things tidy, you were willing to let me continue without knowing that I had a daughter of your own?" His tone was one of incredulity. "You made my decision, just like Poppy did." Steffi's face contorted with annoyance. "Finn, I made no decisions. She exhaled sharply. "I was scared, you know? I'm worried about the implications for us. For our kids." Finn's jaw tightened. He could relate to fear. He could appreciate their desire to keep their family safe. The dishonesty and treachery of not one, but two women he had trusted, however, were beyond his comprehension. Poppy sniffed softly as she saw the consequences of her long-kept secret play out in front of her. Hope, meanwhile, was closely observing Steffi as her own thoughts were racing. Although Finn's paternity had been established, Hope still didn't know the answer. No, she suspected that this was only the beginning. Because it was impossible to know what other secrets Steffi might have been concealing if she had been prepared to conceal this and to twist the facts to keep her marriage intact. And Hope was going to learn. As she targeted Carter, Daphne moved with the elegance of a woman who understood her power, her presence mesmerizing and purposeful. She had spent enough time studying him to be aware of his shortcomings, such as his want to be wanted and his tendency to fall for the false pretense of love despite his constant need for something genuine. She was going to give him just that, an illusion so convincing that he wouldn't realize he was bound until it was too late. As she leaned closer, her perfume, rich, sensual, and distinctively hers, wrapped itself about him like a spell, her lips curving into a knowing smile. Carter was not a fool. Women have previously played with him, using him as a stepping stone or an escape. It felt different with Daphne, though. She wasn't hurrying him or making unfulfilled promises. Rather, she just made herself irresistible, a mystery he wished to unravel. The way she touched his arm and her eyes lingered for just a second too long made him realize that he was in control and that he wouldn't fall so easily. He already had her in his mind, and he would soon have her in his heart. Poppy was drowning in her own disaster across town, secrets slipping out of her grasp and her mind disintegrating at a breakneck pace. The walls were drawing near. Now that Finn was aware of the reality, Luna was his daughter, the consequences were just getting started. Persuaded that shielding him from the past was the proper course of action, she had worked so hard to keep this hidden. Now, though, Poppy felt like a woman on the edge of losing everything, with Steffi on edge, Finn wanting answers, and Hope watching things unfold with cunning eyes. Her fingers shaking, she gripped her phone and walked the room, wondering if she should make a call that would change everything. She required assistance, a support system, and someone who could calm the storm before it carried her away. However, who? Lee? She would condemn her, no. Finn? He was enraged. She wasn't even certain of Bill's position in all of this. Two very different women found themselves in the center of mayhem, both playing a game they weren't sure they could win, as Daphne tightened her grip on Carter and drew him deeper into her web while Poppy fought to keep her secrets from devouring her. One thing, though, was for sure, nothing would be the same again once the dust settled.